Hey everybody, so welcome back to the channel. Excited to dive into this bottle today. This has been like one of my unicorn bottles, right? For a long time. I'll get into that in a second. I do have to apologize. I know I had a couple of weeks without an upload. I had a pretty intrusive jawbone surgery. I won't bore you with the gross details, but it required a couple of weeks of recovery. So I'm on the other side of that now, feeling great, and back to tasting whiskey again, which is wonderful. And today, I'm hitting Wild Turkey 12 year. I'm very excited about it. So if you're not familiar with this bottle, the Wild Turkey 12 year is it's international release only, right? Japan, Australia, South Korea. I think the only places that this is like actively sold. So getting a bottle means somebody acquired it internationally and then is putting it up for sale. So I did pay about a $50 markup on, well, it's like double markup, right? Because it's, I think at the location, I think it sells for around $60 to $70 US conversion in those areas. But the MSRP on the international market I think is around $150, and I paid $200. So double markup. But I really wanted to get this bottle. I've always wanted to try it, right? It's no secret I'm a fan of a lot of Wild Turkey products. Not all of them. Some of the Russell's lineup is not great, admittedly. But I love Wild Turkey 101. I love Rare Breed. So I was very excited to get my hands on this. I got some B-roll footage of this, obviously, as always, as well. But so they discontinued the 12 year. For like 10 years, they stopped making it. Took it off the market. So I think it was 2020 when they reintroduced 12 year back into the lineup. I actually really appreciate that it's just sort of a classier version of the 101 bottle. Because I think the bottling on the 101 series is great as is. You've got the hallmark turkey in the glass there, and then the this almost royal blue kind of a color on the labeling. This is from the box. This is what it says. Born from the father and son distilling genius of Jimmy and Eddie Russell, Wild Turkey 12-year-old Distiller's Reserve is Kentucky straight bourbon of the highest character. This special release has been carefully selected from the distiller's favorite reserve, barreled at a lower proof, and slowly matured to create a bourbon of exceptional quality. I always hate reading tasting notes from the distiller. I don't know why, but I don't like it. Because it puts flavors in my head. I don't like that. So I had a taste of this earlier and took some notes of my own before I ever read the label. I didn't want to have that sort of inception of an idea placed into my head as I went into tasting it. But this is what the box says in terms of tasting notes. It says, slowly matured to create a bourbon of exceptional quality with notes of vanilla, rich caramel, shocking, hints of spice, and a long chocolate orange finish. Wild Turkey 12-year-old Distiller's Reserve is a showcase of the world-renowned craftsmanship of Jimmy and Eddie Russell and brilliantly reveals the bold and distinctive character of Wild Turkey bourbon. Drink responsibly. Here we go. Color on that has a nice golden bronzy character to it. So this is your traditional 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley. The nose is exceptionally fruity, and it takes me straight to not an actual orange, but it takes me straight to those orange slice candies. They've got like the sugar coating all around them. They're really chewy. Orange slice candies that you'd get at like a gas station, something like that. That's where it takes me, and a little bit of spice on the nose for sure. But mostly sweet. A very sweet, candy forward, and a little bit floral in there too. I think of like honeysuckle, a sweet floral note, maybe lavender. The first time I had this, I had a really interesting note on the palate that I couldn't get out of my head. Once my brain went there, it latched onto this note. I'm curious to see if I'll get it again. Cheers. That orange note to me, that candy orange slice note from the nose, it's not really there on the palate for me. The fruitiness is definitely there, but it's a different fruitiness. To me, the thing that comes to mind is a blueberry cobbler. Okay? You've got the almost savory bready note in there, complemented by the sweet of the blueberry, and just a hint of like cinnamon and sugar spice. It's like all the notes came together to form that blueberry cobbler in my mind, because I'm getting all those different notes individually, like the sweet fruit blueberry note, the sort of savory bready quality, as well as that cinnamon spice. So my brain like compiles those together, like what do all those make when you group them together? Well, blueberry cobbler is the thing, and that's where my brain goes when I taste this. It's not like I don't pull like, half a dozen notes out of this. It's not like some highly complex drink. It just executes on a few notes really well. But on the finish though, it does kind of transition to more like a bittersweet, almost like dark chocolate chips. You're in the kitchen baking cookies, and you can't help but sneak a couple of those dark chocolate chips as you're tossing them into the dough. That's what it reminds me of right there on the finish. That is delightful. I like that a lot. I don't regret my purchase, but I don't know that I would be chomping at the bit to drink a lot of this and then replenish the bottle for another $200. It's not something I'm going to go out there and buy for a markup consistently, but I'm very happy it's on my shelf, and it's delicious. It is delicious. Now, I have heard stories of people finding Wild Turkey 12 year at international airports. And so I've done plenty of travel for my work. If you're not familiar with my actual occupation, so I work as a content creator in the gaming sphere. So a lot of times I'm heading out, I'm traveling coast to coast to different developers and studios across the United States. A lot of it in the Pacific Northwest or in the LA area, sometimes down in Texas. But there's a lot of these developers near the coast, and so I tend to go through international airports pretty frequently. I have never seen it. I've gone to liquor and wine selections, because you can't like bring it into the airport with you, but once you've gone through security, you're allowed to buy alcohol, but only the stuff that's there in those stores after security. So I always check, and I have never once seen it. Maybe one day, and then I won't have to pay a secondary markup on it. But yeah, so there's a little tip for you. If you do travel as well for your work or whatever, and you're ever in an international airport, make sure you check. If I was going to dock anything on this, I would say that it has great flavor, great character, but I kind of wish, and I know that it's their thing, right? 101 is their thing, but I kind of wish it was more like 110, maybe in that area for proof. So maybe don't proof it down quite as much. I'm not sure what the proof is coming out of the barrel, because obviously if they barrel it at a lower proof, then I'm not sure how that affects what the final proof is coming out of the barrel. But I would love to taste this around the 110 proof area. Get a little bit more viscosity out of it, a little bit more of that oily mouth feel out of it. I think that would complement these flavors really well. So if I'm going to give a score for this on my scale that I rate on, I think that I would fall off the log and I would give this like an 8.4. I think it's delicious. I don't know that it's extremely innovative per se, or is pushing the envelope in any specific capacity, but it has great flavors, executes them really well. I love the synergy of those flavors, of being that sort of bready, savory, sweet, fruity, and the cinnamon spice coming together to sort of form that blueberry cobbler idea in my mind on the palate. I really like that orange slice note on the nose, and finishing with those bitter chocolates, fruity, desserty qualities. It's quite tasty. But I would like a little bit more of that viscous mouthfeel out of it that coats your whole mouth and allows those flavors to sort of cling to your mouth a little bit longer. And I almost feel like that savory bready note could be a little bit more prominent with a little bit higher proof on it too, to sort of complement that fruity sweetness as well a little bit more. Kind of tip those scales a little bit. But 8.4 is where I land. That's a fantastic whiskey. Fantastic. If you ever have the chance to try it, I recommend that you do. Hey, thanks for tuning into the video. Hopefully you enjoyed this tasting, and hopefully you have a chance to find some of this out there, whether you're paying for a pour, you find a bottle somewhere, or on the secondary, or you find a great deal. Whatever it may be, hopefully you can have an opportunity at some point to try this whiskey. A big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because I used the Patreon money to purchased this bottle. So without you guys, I probably wouldn't have pulled the trigger on something that I really wanted to have, and I'm very happy that I got the chance to try it because of your generosity. So thank you so much to my Patreon supporters. If that's something you're interested in doing, get involved with the Patreon, you can do that. There's a link in the description for you to find our Patreon group. And hopefully I'm going to start posting there a little bit more frequently now that I kind of coming through a busy season, launch of a couple of games that I had to cover on my other channels like Remnant 2 and Starfield. So kind of coming out of that really busy season, I have a little bit more time to do these tastings and these videos, and looking forward to that. Hey, cheers! May you live richly and get better with age. Catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.